वैष्णववृंद की जय। प्रेम ते कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय, मथुरा धाम की जय, जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय, श्री गंगा माई की जय, यमुना माई की जय, श्री भक्ति देवी की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद ट्रांसेंडेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद ट्रांसेंडेंटल प्रसारम डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदी हरि हरि बोल। All glory to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glory to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glory to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guru Angad. Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. We are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 1, Text 27. But before we read, we recite the invocation to invoke auspiciousness. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, Canto 3, Chapter 1, Text 27. Kachit kurunam paramasurinno bhama sa ashti sukam angasorahi yovai svashrinam pitrivadadati varan vadanya varatarpanenaha. Kachit kurunam paramasurinno bhama sa asha sukham angasorahi yo vaisa svashrinam pitrivadadati varan vadanya varatarpanenaha. Kachit kurunam paramasurinno bhama sa asha sukham angasorahi Yavai Shvashrinam Pitrivadadati Varan Vadanya Varatarpanenaha. Yes, 27. Yeah, yep, that one. Bhama sa ashti sukham angasorahi. Yeah, I read it already. Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. Good. Yep. So you can start again. I'll repeat after that. Kachit kurunam paramasurinno bhama sa asha sukhamanga saurahi yo vai spashrinam pitrivadadati varan vadanya varatarpanenaha. Word for word translation. Kachit Veda Kurunam, of the Kurus, Parama, greatest, Suhurit, well-wisher, Na, are, Bhama, brother-in-law, Sa, he, Aste, is, Sukham, happy, Anga, Udava, Sauri, Vasudeva, Ya, one who, Vai, certainly, Swashrinam, of the sisters, Pitravat, like a father, Dadati, gives, Varan, everything desirable, Vadanya, munificent, Vara, wife, Tarpanena, by pleasing. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Abhay Charana Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Translation. Please tell me whether the best friend of the Kurus, our brother-in-law Vasudev, is doing well. He is very munificent. He is like a father to his sisters, and he is always pleasing to his wives. Purport. Lord Krishna's father Vasudev had 16 wives, and one of them, named Puravi or Rohini, the mother of Baladev, was the sister of Vidura. Vasudev therefore was the husband of Vidura's sister, and thus they were brothers-in-law. Vasudev's sister Kunti was the wife of Pandu, Vidura's elder brother, and in that sense also Vasudev was brother-in-law to Vidura. Kunti was younger than Vasudev, and it was the duty of the elder brother to treat younger sisters as daughters. Whenever anything was needed by Kunti, it was munificently delivered by Vasudev, due to his great love for his younger sister. Vasudev never dissatisfied his wives, and at the same time he supplied the objects desired by his sister. He had special attention for Kunti because she became a widow at an early age. While inquiring about Vasudev's welfare, Vidura remembered all about him and the family relationship. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savdutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostude Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishubhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatirubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All right. So only the recipient needs to have a mask. Hare Krishna. So very fortunate here to be reading and absorbing in the inquiries of Vidura, or the questions by Vidura. So I'll read the verse again. Kachit kurunam paramasurinno bhamasa asha sukamanga sorihi yo vaisvashrinam pitrivadadati varan vadanyu varatarpanenaha. Translation. Please tell me whether the best friend of the Kurus, our brother-in-law Vasudev, is doing well. He is very munificent. He is like a father to his sisters, and he's always pleasing to his wives. So just as I was reading this verse, and the name for Vasudev in this verse is actually very beautiful. It's Shori. And have you heard that? For the meaning of the word, Shori? I mean, I remember vaguely about something, but I don't want it to be covered in my speculation. I mean, it's my speculation, but maybe I've heard it, but I can't remember. It's someone whose very chivalrous and whose fame is known to the world, but I could be wrong. But that's what I remember vaguely from hearing some time ago. So, in this verse, as we see that, and in the previous verse, in verse 26, actually towards the end, I'll read the verse 26. Please tell me whether the original personalities of Godhead who incarnated themselves at the request of Brahma, who's born out of the lotus flower from the Lord, and who have increased the prosperity of the world by elevating everyone, are doing well in the house of Surasena. And towards the end of the purport, there is a statement there which it seems, I couldn't conceive of it, what the meaning is, because of my conditioned nature. Without the grace of the Lord, no one can become happy and prosperous. Of course, we know that. Because the happiness of the family of the Lord's devotees depends on the happiness of the Lord, Vidura first of all inquired about the well-being of the Lord. And now he proceeds to ask about the Kurus, and he goes into specific detail to go ask about the Kurus, then he later on asks about the Yadus. So, and in this verse, towards the end, in the verse we read today, there's a reference to Queen Kunti, and how Vasudeva had special attention for Kunti because she became a Vedu at an early age. So, obviously we are reading about Krishna and his devotees here, and obviously the love that the devotees have for Krishna and Krishna has for his devotees, and a lot of times that love, Krishna's love seems inconceivable. Why he does certain things, what in the pastimes of the devotees that are mentioned in the Bhagavatam, it just seems, because of a conditioned nature, we look for a very linear graph of how Krishna reciprocates with his devotees, but quite often we see there are two exact same personalities from an external point of view, and Krishna is dealing with them very differently. So I'd just like to point to some, just to break it down a bit further, with reference to Queen Kunti, I'd like to point us to Canto 1, and we'll just read through a couple of verses there where it points as to who is a recipient of Krishna's mercy. Right? See if I just go there. So Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8. Verse 26, a very famous verse. Janmaishvarya Suta Shribhir Edhamana Madapuman Naivarti Abhidatum Vai Tvamakinchana Gocharam. My Lord, your Lordship can easily be approached but only by those who are materially exhausted. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feeling. And then if you go to verse number 29, Na veda kaschit bhagavam chikishitam tave hamanasya nirnam vidambanam na yasya kaschit daito sikarichid dveshas jayashmin vishama matirninam. O Lord, no one can understand your transcendental pastimes, which appear to be human and so are misleading. You have no specific object of favor, nor do you have any object of envy. People only imagine that you are partial. So now we read this. Now let's fast forward to Canto 8. And we go to Canto 8. Chapter 22, Bali Maharaj surrenders his life. So, as the pastime goes, Bali Maharaj regains, who was born in an Asuric family of the demons, family of the Daityas. He regains control of the heavenly kingdom, but he's also a great devotee of the Lord. And at the request of the demigods, the Lord comes as Vamana Dev and takes away, at the pretense of asking for 3 steps of land, he conquers over the lower, middle, and upper planets. And when he has nowhere to put his foot on, on the 3rd step of land as promised by Bali Maharaj, he accuses Bali Maharaj of being untruthful and of not keeping up to his promise, and he takes away, he orders for him to be chained, and what seems to be an external punishment in one sense. Again, inconceivable. But we'll read now, what does the Lord actually say? In chapter 1, or in Canto 1, we see what Queen Kunti has to say as to who is not qualified to receive the Lord's mercy. That is, those that are materially well situated. Only after they've exhausted their material piety or their material blessings do they then have that sincere feeling to approach the Lord. But let's see what the Lord says in Canto 8 in this chapter. Because we're trying to understand that how Krishna's love is inconceivable. So chapter 22, and we go to verse number 24. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Brahmanyam Anugranami Tadvisho Vidanomiham Yanmada Purusho Stabdo Lokamam Chavamanyate. Supreme Personality of God has said, My dear Lord Brahma, because of material opulence, a foolish person becomes dull-witted and mad. Thus, he has no respect for anyone within the 3 worlds and defies even my authority. To such a person, I show special favor by first taking away all his possessions. Right? We go to the next verse. Verse number 25. 8:20-25. Vyada kadachit jivatma samsaran nija karmabhi nana yonishu anisho yam paurusham katima vrajet. while rotating in the cycle of birth and death again and again, in different species because of his own fruitive activities, the dependent living entity, by good fortune, may happen to become a human being. This human birth is very rarely obtained. And the next verse we see what the Lord finally has to say in conclusion to all of this. Verse 26, Janma karma vayo rupa vidyeshvaryadanadivi yadi ashyana bhavistamba tatrayam madanugraha. If a human being is born in an aristocratic family or a higher status of life, if he performs wonderful activities, if he is youthful, if he has personal beauty, a good education and good wealth, and if he is nonetheless not proud of his opulences, it is to be understood that he is specially favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'll just read the first bit of the purport. When in spite of possessing all these opulences, a person is not proud, this means that he is fully aware that all his opulences are due to the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He therefore engages all his possessions in the service of the Lord. So, there's no contradiction between Queen Kunti's prayers and what she said in the first canto and what's here, because we understand that when, for example, Srila Prabhupada would always say in his life he took a lot of solace from the verse from the 10th canto, Yashyaham Anugrahami, where Krishna tells Lord Brahma, to those that I want to show special mercy, I take away their opulence of their possessions, and then they're forced to surrender unto me. Obviously, we understand that Srila Prabhupada is speaking out of his own humility. It's not that he was attached, or he, like how Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, he's just playing a part for our benefit. He's not an illusion, but just for the want of speaking the Bhagavad Gita. The Lord creates a situation where he externally it's shown that he's an illusion, and the Lord has to speak the Bhagavad Gita. So similarly, for Srila Prabhupada too, it's not that Srila Prabhupada is naturally a devotee. By his very presence, one feels the love for Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada always said that Krishna tested me by taking everything away from me. And later on, when he achieved what he achieved by many millionfold, he said Krishna was testing him again. So first he said that Krishna tested me by taking everything away, and then he tested me by giving me everything. And it's interesting to note that when a lot of times, even in our devotional career, when we receive, it's said that the Lord has 6 opulences. He's full in all opulences. Beauty, fame, knowledge, strength, renunciation, beauty, and riches. And sometimes in our devotional career, we get blessed with one of these opulences, to some proportion. And at that time we forget, we tend to not offer the results of obtaining one of those opulences to the Lord. And that doesn't please the Lord. And that takes away our devotional merits. At times you see people who gain prestige, who gain fame, and as a result of that they become proud, as that verse in the 8th canto was pointing to, that it more than an advantage, it becomes an impediment to unlocking the seed of bhakti that's growing in their heart. So the Lord takes away our possessions to teach us that we are meant to offer everything in service to the Lord. And as we read in the 8th canto, towards the last was 8:20-26, how that if we are blessed with all these opulences, if we engage them in Krishna's service, and that's Krishna's mercy. And you see that there are so many wonderful examples, even in our contemporary devotee communities, who live that principle, that everything for Krishna and nothing for me. Now that doesn't mean, they have this externally, it may seem that they behave very miserly or so, but what Krishna is pointing to is that within their heart, they're fully surrendered to the will of the Lord. And they're seeking whatever opportunities they get to engage all that they have in Krishna's possession. So in that sense, now in that 8th canto, where it says first Krishna takes everything away if he wants to show special mercy. And then he says, human life is very rarely obtained, so one should act very responsibly. And then he says, but when you receive all these opulences, despite having all of these, you can say, riches or prosperous things, if one is able to engage in devotional service or offer them to Shri Radha Gopinath, then that's Krishna's special mercy. So Krishna's mercy is Krishna's love is inconceivable. It's hard to understand. Obviously, with our conditioned mind, with our limited intelligence, limited sense perception, we can't understand what Krishna's plan is. And obviously we can't because we are not Krishna. A lot of times when we try to analyze either in our own life or we try to understand in the Bhagavatam how great personalities such as Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma, who are such exalted positions, they tend to, it seems to be that they are bewildered on what's happening. But again, we understand that, and they recognize the supremacy of the Lord, and they acknowledge it, and they are grateful for it. A lot of times when we see in our own lives, when Krishna does, or when Shri Radha Gopinath arranges for such situations which don't seem favorable, at least to us, we rather go and, we bring a bag of complaints to Radha Gopinath. Why this? Radha Gopinath, why is this happening? Why are you doing this to us? But you see personalities like Queen Kunti, such a beautiful section of prayers that are mentioned in the first canto. The prayers are filled with gratitude. And time again, through the example of such devotees, or through the example of devotees that we feel inspired by, we should take on this message of gratitude, because that's what will accelerate our devotional service. So now, last one thing that struck to me, that I was listening to a class by His Holiness Kadam Kanana Swami on this very same verse, and he brought about a very interesting point that he mentions that right after inquiring about the Lord, Vidura is inquiring about the devotees of the Lord. And there is, he's concerned, he's curious to know what's happened to the dynasty, to the Yadu dynasty, but then he's inquiring about the devotees of the Lord. And how that serves such an important lesson for all of us, that how we should we should consider our devotional service, or the mercy of Sri Sri Radha Gopinath to manifest through the devotees. Just taking something from another section in the Laghu Bhagavatamrita, towards the end there's a section there that talks about the hierarchy of devotees and who are most dear. And actually it goes, obviously the Lord is partial to, he's impartial because he's the father of all living entities, but he is partial to those that offer love and devotion to him. And we hear the story of Prahlad Maharaj, how Prahlad Maharaj satisfied the Lord by his devotion. But greater than Prahlad Maharaj are the Pandavas. In the section of the 7th canto, we read how Yudhishthira Maharaj is hearing about, Yudhishthira Maharaj has this question, that is the Lord really partial? Is the Lord really impartial? What causes the Lord to become impartial? And then there's this whole pastime of Prahlad Maharaj that extends around, I think, 6 or 7 chapters of pastime of Prahlad Maharaj, and starting from Hiranyakashipu and then. Yes. It starts off from him asking about the pastime of Sheshupal. So, Narada Muni, after narrating the pastime of Prahlad Maharaj, Yudhishthira Maharaj feels very, and he feels himself to be quite unfortunate because, he considers Prahlad to be more fortunate because he have received the grace of the Lord. And then Narada Muni tells him, but you, O Pandavas, it's 7:15:77, you, O Pandavas, are more fortunate than Prahlad Maharaj because the Lord comes to your house just like an ordinary visitor. He comes and visits you. And in the purport, in that text of the Laghu Bhagavatamrita, it is said that Prahlad Maharaj only had this, with all of his devotion, with all of his loving service towards Nrsingadev or towards Lord Vishnu, Nrsingadev only appeared to Prahlad Maharaj for a few hours. Whereas for the Pandavas, he was there with them the whole time. I mean, he would come and visit them. He acted as their friend, as their well-wisher, and he also acted as the, we all know, as the chariot driver of the Arjuna. So, how much more merciful is the Lord towards the Pandavas? I mean, it proceeds further. It's Prahlad Maharaj, but more fortunate than Prahlad Maharaj are the Pandavas. And then it goes further. More fortunate than the Pandavas are the Yadus. The Yadus are basically, as we understand the Bhagavatam, all the personalities in the Yadu clan are either expansions of different personalities from the spiritual world, or they are different demigods who have taken birth in the family of the Yadus to help assist the Lord in his mission. And there's more intimacy between the Lord and the Yadus. And of all the Yadus, the topmost devotee that gets the most mercy of all of them is Uddhava. The Lord takes advice from Uddhava, and that seems bewildering. The Lord is Vedas personified, and yet it seems to be in certain pastimes in the 11th canto, or the Lord would reveal his heart to Uddhava, and he would also take advice from Uddhava. And more exalted than the Uddhavas are the Vrajavasis. And amongst the Vrajavasis, the most intimate are the Gopis. So, we understand that to approach the Lord on its own is actually very, very, it's rather just it's impossible for us. So we approach the Lord through the devotees. And how important is it for us to have loving relationships amongst each other with the devotees? Because that's what pleases the Lord. And in fact, Ishwar Prabhu helped me here, but in 4th canto there's a specific verse that the Lord speaks to Prachina, the sons of Prachina Bari, that I'm very pleased by the cooperation amongst you all. I'm paraphrasing it, but it's in the 4th canto, right? Or it's in the 6th canto? Yes. Yeah. So he basically says, I'm very pleased by the the cooperation amongst you all. So it serves such a valuable lesson for all of us to have loving relationships amongst each other, and that's what attracts the mercy of the Lord. It's said that Krishna is impartial because he is, the seed-giving father of all living entities. So he is, in one sense, impartial because his mercy is equally distributed to everyone. Now that depends on the receptivity of others, but the mercy of his mercy follows the mercy of the devotee. So this past weekend we had a book distribution celebration where Ganesham Prabhu was, attributing that the success of a book distribution. There have been so many devotees, so many amazing personalities who have given us that inspiration, who have always been guiding us in our efforts for book distribution, and we give credit to them. So what pleases Krishna is when we give credit to where it's due. So the devotees that have helped us in our Krishna consciousness, that continue guiding us in whatever way. It doesn't have to be that that devotee is here or whoever we take inspiration from, that we give them the credit, because that's what opens that storehouse of mercy, which we can access. Or else, if we just tend to hold on to that mercy just for ourselves, and that, then in a matter of time, Krishna just sees, okay, this person just keeps everything to himself, so I'll rather, just park him for a while, and then I'll go back to, go and help with others. And Her Grace Mother Urmila was narrating a very nice pastime of how the law of karma, but also how Krishna's universal law applies. And it's, in one sense, it seems easy to understand. If a parent has 5 children and gives them a bowl of cookies, and obviously he'll go to the first child and then pass the cookies around. And what if the first child, if he or she grabs all the cookies and keep it for himself or herself, then the next time the parent will be like, okay, you take one and distribute it amongst the others. But if the child on his own accord, the first child on his own accord, just takes one cookie for himself or herself and distributes the rest, then naturally, next time the parent will be more, I won't say liberal, but will be more compassionate in the sense that this person understands his or her responsibility and is willing to give more to that person. So Krishna, similarly, that way is a loving parent, and when he sees that we are willing, Gopinath has for all of us. So, the key point is we always approach Krishna through his devotees, and I think in a week's time, or 2 weeks' time, we are approaching a very auspicious occasion, which is the appearance of Lord Nityananda. And my Guru Maharaj always would say it, to approach Krishna, to approach Krishna, we go through Radha Rani. But to approach Radha Rani, we access the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. And to access the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, we have to seek the mercy of Lord Nityananda. And we seek the mercy of Lord Nityananda by approaching personalities such as Jagai and Madai. So, with this instruction and with these examples ahead of us, what behooves us is that we really take this opportunity to give Krishna to others. And by doing so, we become more dear to Srila Prabhupada, more dear to Sri Radha Gopinath, and that's what will make our life a success, and we'll be able to access Krishna's love, which is in one sense inconceivable, but it's conceived. It can be easily conceived if we are willing to surrender to his or her devotees. Okay? I will end here. If anyone has a question or a comment. Kantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nago Premanandi. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.